What's up? What's up? What's up? How's everybody doing out there? Hope everybody's doing great. Hey, Latisse, what's going on? What's up, Ryan John? Good. Looking forward to seeing you next weekend, Bobby. What's going on? Aren't you supposed to be working? Gwen, how you doing? How you doing? Hope you guys are doing great. I'm actually in the RV right now. Macklin is down for nap time, and the girls are at the horse park, the Kentucky Horse Park. So they're out there. What's up, Shag? Jay Combs, what's going on? So they're out there looking at horses, and I'm diving into some reading and some personal development. And a couple things came to me that I wanted to drop into you guys today. So thank y'all for logging on. Again, if you logged on to see, hi, Grandma Debbie. But if you're logging on to see the kids, they're not going to be on this episode unless Macklin wakes up or poops himself. Then I'll have to run in there and do that. But that'll be real live TV. So this is not a Janice 5 episode. This is me just going to share some value that I've taken away today about peaks and valleys. And this isn't a Visalis thing. This is any business thing, right? Especially entrepreneurship, I guess, is probably a good way to look at it. So whether you your own, like Jay Combs owns his own real estate business, whether you're in business for yourself, whatever that may be, you're gonna have ebbs and flows in your business more often than not, right? And I firmly believe that these things are connected, because the errors you make in today's good times are going to be what creates tomorrow's bad times, right? And the wise things that you do in today's bad times are going to create tomorrow's good times. So all too often I think that people are so down in the dumps when things are bad, and rather than dig themselves out of it and be wise in those times, they give up. They throw in the towel. And guys, in any entrepreneurial venture you'll ever have, because I've had a few of them, Vi's not my first shot at this thing, there's going to be ups and downs. This is just part of being your own boss and owning your own business. But those that are the best in the world are making really wise decisions in the crappy times, right? They're not throwing in the towel. They're not giving up. They're not negative, right? These are the times they're growing the most. These are the times they're learning. These are the times they're seeking counsel, right? This is an important thing in your business, guys. What's up, Rosses? So that's something you got to understand. They are going to come. If you're on the top right now, great, right? If you're on the bottom right now, it's okay. No matter where you are in your business right now, peaks and valleys are going to come. But the most common reason that you leave the peak too soon, if you're on a high, you're doing great, things are crushing. The most common reason that you leave the peak too soon is arrogance. That's what I firmly believe, right? I pray every single night, and I have Rachel remind me every single day to stay humble. Stay humble. Stay humble. Stay humble. Like, that's so dang important, right? You may call it confidence, right? And I think there's a big difference. But the most common reason that people leave the peak too soon is they get so comfortable and they walk around like they've mastered everything, and then it comes crumbling down. The most common reason you stay in the valley too long, if you're here and you're in the valley right now, the most common reason you stay in the valley is fear. Fear of change, fear of taking another step, fear of doing something more, fear of picking up the phone, fear of whatever we want to call it. And sometimes we call that comfort, right? Especially in a part-time gig, right? Growing pains hurt. You're exactly right. If it's a part-time, spare-time gig, it's easy to say, you know what? This episode of Lost, or I guess Lost isn't even on anymore. That's the last time I watched TV. This episode of The Voice is a lot more important to me right now than making that phone call, right? Or this football game. And don't get me wrong, guys, I love me some college football, right? But I don't need to watch every single. A better example is fantasy, right? I don't need to be, when I got married and started my own business, I had to stop playing fantasy because it was a really bad decision, because it took up so much of my dang time, right? And it wasn't making me a better person, wasn't making me a better spouse, wasn't going to make me a better father. It was a waste of my time. Now, y'all may love that, and that's okay. I'm not trying to hurt feelings here, right? If that's your thing, go for it. But sometimes that's your comfort, right? I'm comfortable with fantasy sports. I'm comfortable with The Voice. I'm comfortable with those things, right? Or you fear going to make the phone call, or you fear challenging yourself. You fear getting out of that comfort zone, right? So again, the most common reason you leave the peak too soon is arrogance, and the most common reason you stay in the valley too long, I believe, is fear. And the what you need to understand, and I'm talking to you guys that are in the valleys right now, right? The pain that can come with the valley can really wake you up into maybe some truths that you've been ignoring, right? If you don't learn in the valley, then we got a problem, right? And that's when you become bitter, right? And you may have heard this before. If you're either going to become bitter or you're going to become better, right? I know for me, guys, I've had many valleys in the few businesses that I've owned, right? But that's what I feel like is one of my strengths, because a lot of times you wouldn't even know it. I learned to be a better leader. I learned to be more relatable. I learned that's where your story comes alive. You know what's hard to be excited about? Someone who's always on the top. That's why Tiger Woods had so many haters, and that's why so many people cheered when he fell. That's why so many people hate LeBron. Always on the top, right? Your story comes alive when you're on the bottom. Your story comes alive when things are tough, right? Because that's relatable, man. If you're always on the top, always winning, always the best, always on the stage, always doing it great, it's almost unrelatable to people. Right? So don't be afraid of the valley. Don't be afraid of what's going to happen in that, but learn from it, right? That's where you're going to inspire people. That's where you're going to inspire people, is in that valley. So don't ignore that, right? Now, to those of you that are in the peak valley, it's a canyon right now. I like it, Chris, but we're getting out of it, man. We're getting out of it. So guys, another thing to think about is if you're on the peak, those that are on the peak right now, or those that are going to the peak, a couple reminders. Just stay humble, man. Stay grateful, and stay engaged, right? All too often you'll see people make it to the top, and then they disengage from what got them there, right? I don't got time for that anymore. I don't have time to build culture. I don't have time to relate to people. I don't have time to reach out to people that aren't building my business. I don't have time to do these things, guys. Do what got you there, and you're going to stay there longer. Keep making things better. Do more for other people. When you're on the peak, you should be doing more for other people than you've ever done in your entire life. Right? And you do that, and you're going to find yourself having a lot fewer valleys. If you appreciate and manage the peaks wisely, you're going to have a lot less valleys. But you also got to go in there and learn from the valleys. But all this peaks and valleys, I think comes back to one word, to one thing that's going to define where you're going to be, or where you are right now. And some of y'all are going to be like, oh no, not this word, not the C word, consistency, right? It's all about freaking consistency. And I'm going to try not to talk on VI. I'm going to try to talk across the board here, but I think about VI because that's what I do. But that's going to make or break your business, and whether it's real estate, or whether it's a Visalis, or whether you're an independent sales rep somewhere else, or whether you're a door-to-door meat salesman. I don't care what it is, whatever you're doing, or maybe you have a social media thing you're doing, whatever it is, consistency is going to be the key to your success. And a lot of times when you start a new business, you're part-time or spare time. Rarely are you able just to quit your other job and just jump in, unless you've been blessed to have some finances to be able to do that. But more often than not, you're part-time or spare time. So most of the time, the first thing you're going to be inconsistent in is this part-time, spare time gig. Now, not when you start. Right when you start, you're freaking on fire. You're like, I'm unstoppable. I can do this all. I got this thing. But then what starts to happen is other things creep in, right? Family life creeps in. Kids want more of your time. Church activities, ball games for your kids, gymnastics, whatever it is, right? This is the recipe for inconsistency. This is the recipe. These are the things that are going to come into your life. They're going to cause you to be inconsistent. Now, you have like I said, you don't start this way. You start on fire, man. You start, you're showing up at everything. You're on every call. You're on every training. You're seeking advice from other people. But then all of a sudden, we're a month and a half, 2 months in, and you miss this call. And then it's easier to miss the next call. And then it's easier to miss this event. Or it's easy to miss this training, right? And the crazy thing is, guys, this is the point where you start complaining about not getting any results. This is the point where you start saying, well, this thing doesn't work. But if you think about it, if you're 3 months in or you're 6 months in and you've been disengaged because you stopped showing up to these things for 3 months, right? How much time have you really put into Vi or whatever business that is? Just because you've been with something for 6 months doesn't mean you've put 6 months of work into it. You know, when you calculate how much time you actually put in, think about it. How much time are you actually putting in to committed to building your business? Calculate that. Think about that. How much time are you actually putting in? Think about it. If you were as consistent with your part-time gig, whatever that may be, as you are your full-time gig, whatever that may be, granted, I know you can't work 9 hours in both things, but if you were as consistent, you know, if you had an hour a day to give to your part-time gig, and you were consistently focused on the right activities, and we'll talk about that in a second, what would happen to your business? The problem is you'll spend, you know, an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, or 4 hours right when you get started, and you'll do that for a couple days, and then you'll start to realize, man, this isn't working as fast as I thought it would. Oh, this sucks. Oh my gosh, this isn't what I saw in the video. You know, my question is, if you were as consistent at your real job as you were at your part-time job, would you hire you? Now, if you were as consistent with your part-time job as your real-time job, or be honest with yourself. I'm sorry, if you judge your consistency right now with your part-time gig, whatever that may be, would you hire you? Would you want to build a team of you? That's how I always judge myself. Did the work I do today, would I want a team of me, right? That's honest. Look in the mirror. Right? Because I can only control what I do. I can't control what anyone on my team does, right? You know, if I look in the mirror every day, if my team did what I did today, would I win? Guys, I'm not talking about working 24 hours a day. I'm not talking about that. You know, I got up this morning and played at the park with my kids. That was the most important thing I could do at 7:30 this morning. That was the most important thing I could do at 7:30 this morning, right? But I have my habits in place that I need to make sure. One of my habits every day is quality time with my kids. Because if my kids aren't happy, and quality time with Rachel. If Rachel isn't happy, then the rest of my business is going to suck, right? So there's certain things like that as well that are so dang important. But back to consistency. The facts are the facts, guys. On an average, it takes people 5 to 12 exposures for them to join you in anything, right? Most of y'all don't even get to number 2 or 3. Like, you got to understand, this is not here's where I'll go with this. Stop being a wave is the way I'll say it. I said this on a call the other day. You know, we have a pattern where we see people come into our business and they're super excited and they're immediately engaged and they're posting and they're sharing with everyone and they're commenting and they're all about it. It's like, oh, my life's changed. I found the answer. This is great. You know, they're super consistent. Their names are constantly showing up. They're always there. And often they're advancing in rakes. They're making a little bit of money. Sorry, I keep looking out the window. This guy's creeping me out. Every day for a couple of months, you know, it's the same people, 10, 15 people posting and crushing and consistent. Then a couple months later, only a couple of those 10 or 15 are still engaged. They're still around. They're still posting. But it's a new 10 or 15 that are posting, that are engaged, that are commenting, that are excited. Their names are showing up, right? They're always there. It's a new 10 or 15, right? And then all of a sudden, 10 of those disappear and 2 of them are around. Right? And the next month, same thing, guys. It's an endless cycle. You have the same 2 or 3 people showing up, new 10 or 15. And then a month later, 2 or 3. Guys, now fast forward this 2 or 3 years later. Only the top earners and the top producers in the entire company and the top recruiters, or whatever you want to call them, are the ones that are constantly posting, constantly engaged, constantly commenting, constantly at events, constantly showing up, constantly being there, never stopping, always looking to grow. Every day, if I don't grow, I get pissed. I have to grow somehow every stinking day. I'm always looking for places to grow. It's not always someone who's at the top, guys. I learned so much from people who it's day one. Or people that aren't even in my business. The guy on the golf cart that drove me around the campsite today, I learned something from him. I had a great takeaway from him today that I'm actually going to use in another training later on, guys. Stop being the wave. Stop being the wave. The only difference is consistency. If you stay engaged, I don't care what your paycheck is. If you stay engaged, you're going to have success. The people who are the most active, the most consistent, they're the ones that are producing. They're the ones that are earning. They're the ones that are moving up in ranks. These people of high ranks, of success, of the people you see in any company and anywhere in the world, they got there by doing consistent activity all the dang time, and they stay there by continuing to do this. And that's why I talked about peaks and valleys. You got to stay with what got you to where you got. Don't be arrogant. Don't be cocky. Don't get to the point where you're on the top of the mountain and you think you're untouchable. Because that's a huge turnoff for everyone around you, and all of a sudden your team will turn on you. If someone asked me, Brandon, why have you guys had success? Why have you guys been able to, from the outside looking in, trust me, there's many valleys in our business, but why, from the outside looking in, how have you been able to stay on a peak for longer periods of time? And the answer is simple. I've been engaged since day one. Every single week. Every single week. The road to success, guys, is going to be uphill. There's going to be road bumps. There's no coasting. You're always going to be pedaling. You're always going to be pushing. You're always going to be driving. You're always going to be working, guys. But don't ever stop. Don't ever stop. I tell everybody that comes into my team, it's not about going fast, but I need you to get a little bit better every single day. And from the moment I joined this business, I thought if I can get a little bit better every single day over a long period of time, I'm going to win. We will win if we can just do that. Right? The problem is, I use a gym analogy a lot. The problem is people come in and they're so gung-ho and they do all the trainings and they do all the videos and they think, I got this. This thing's awesome. I'm great. They get a couple no's, they bounce. But they spend 10 hours on their business in the first two days of their business, and then they take a month off or they take a week off, guys. That's like going to the gym for 10 hours in a day and then taking a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks off. That's not how this thing works. I'd rather you do 10 minutes a day, just like your trainer would rather you do 10 minutes a day at the gym than an hour or let's say 10 hours one day and no time the rest of the month. It would do you no good. You'd just be sore for like a week and a half, right? I'd rather you give me 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. If that's all the time you have, great. What are the best activities you can do during those 10 minutes a day to make you have success over the long term? Because I'm not good at math, but 10 minutes a day times a year's a lot, right? Times 365 is a lot of time. If you do the right activity. If you do the right activity during that time. Guys, I do not lay my head down at night without getting better. And I always ask myself this, and I said it earlier. If my team did what I did today, how would my team look? And 99.9% of the time, I'm perfectly happy with how my team would look. Guys, and more often than not, no matter what business you're in, your team's going to do about a third of what you do. Maybe a half of what you do. And there may be some superstars that are right up there with you. But more often than not, they're going to do a very little bit of what you do, especially if you're a full-timer, right? Especially if you're full-time in whatever you're doing. But doing a little bit every single day, that's how you're going to impact people. That's how you're going to break the mold. Do not be the wave. Do not expect the wave to come and ride the wave. Be steady. When the wave's here, if the wave comes, just keep going. Keep pedaling, keep pedaling, keep pedaling. Because the moment you ride it, it's going to go from a peak to a valley real quick. Be willing. Be ready to pay the price. Keep posting. Keep engaging. Keep commenting. Keep having fun. Make sure your name's constantly showing up. And I'm not talking about, doesn't have to be on the leaderboard. Just show up. Be on your team calls. Be in your Facebook groups. Be at every training you can be at. Always be willing to learn. And you know what? If you feel like you're stuck and you need someone to go learn from, go find the person you want to learn from and talk to them. Follow them. Ask them. When I got to the point in my business, I'm like, I need to be pushed like never before. And I just asked Nick Sarnicle. I said, tell me what to do. What can I do? I need to get better. And every day, driving me to get better, to do more, to be more. Is it uncomfortable? Heck yes. I don't want comfort. If you're in a comfortable state, that's why your business probably isn't growing. Like this is easy stuff here, guys. But more importantly than all that, more importantly than all that, all about you. I'm talking about you. What about your team? What about the team you're building in any business that you're in? You know, if you want to become a leader that people actually want to follow, look in the mirror and ask yourself, would I follow me? Would I follow me? You know, and if you can sit there and continue to be consistent day after day after day after day after day, watch what happens with your team. They're going to start following your lead. But if you're in and out and in and out, your team's going to start following your lead. That's the problem. They follow you good or bad, you know? So if you want to be the leader people actually wants to follow, be a great one, you know? In closing, guys, the only way that you don't win is by missing this step. It's consistency. Every single day. Every single day. Like, that's it. Do something every single day that's going to make you better. Do something every single day that's going to make your team or organization better, right? And then a final thing I'll hit on. Make sure it's the right things. And all too often, I think that's where people have a problem. One thing we've learned a lot lately and been focusing on lately is we all have goals, no matter what business we're in. We have all these goals and goals and goals and goals. But what are the habits that are going to get you to those goals? If you focus more on the habits than the goals, you're going to win, right? What are the daily habits? Again, this isn't all just about business, but I'm talking business right now. Because again, I told you, 2 of my daily habits are quality time with Rachel, quality time with my kids, because if those aren't happening, then the rest of my life is in shambles, right? What are the 2 or 3 main goals in your business? And what are the 4 or 5 daily habits that if you do every single day for the next 90 days are going to get you to those goals? That's what you got to ask yourself. And if you're having trouble with that, talk to someone who can talk you through that. I love talking through that. I love talking through that because I feel like if we can identify these things, it's not going to flip a switch. It's not like you can flip a switch because, oh, I did my habits today. But if you find these things that are going to get you where you need to go, watch what happens to your business in the next 90 days. Watch what happens in your team in the next 90 days. Watch what happens to your legacy by continuing to do these things. Because the funny thing about these things, guys, they're reminders now. I get reminded of my habits. These are the things I need to do every single day. After 90 days, they just become innate. I just do them. I don't need reminders anymore, right? And I can add new habits in there. But guys, it's incredible. If you have these major goals, it starts with consistency. If you're not consistent, you will lose all day long. So my challenge to you guys, I don't know how many days are left in the year. What is it? September, October, November, December. A little over 90 days left in the year. What about 90 days of consistent activity? What about 90 days of looking in the mirror every single night and saying, if my team or my organization or my business or my group did what I did today, how would my team look? 90 days. Watch what happens come January 1 if you go do that. The problem is a lot of you think, well, if I go do it for a week, it should be great. That ain't how it works. 90 days of consistent daily activity and asking yourself every day, if my team did what I did today, would we win? Would I be happy with my growth? That's my challenge to you guys leaving here. I hope you guys took some value away from this. That was my rant for the day. Peaks and valleys are going to come. The more consistent you are, the more time you'll spend in the peaks. And don't get too arrogant when you are at the top. That's a big issue. But guys, 90 days, track your habits, be consistent. Let's go out there and absolutely crush the end of the year. Love you guys for chiming in. This was fun for me. Sorry I didn't answer any questions. I'll jump into the comments a little bit later. But appreciate you guys for being a part of this, and I will catch up with you guys all soon. Have a good one, guys.